Imagine finding out that all that you believed was solid could change with the flip of a single question. That's precisely the situation the Brown family finds itself in. And for millions of us, it's the moment we've been keeping our breath waiting for. Kody Brown, the head of this notorious polygamous family, has just blown a gasket. A woman from outside the family has asked to join them. It's not a rumor, it's not something that's not real. And the response is straight out of the raw box. Christine's eyes squint through a blur of disbelief and reserved anger. Janelle's serene demeanor conceals a tempest that may burst forth at any moment. Robyn, shock followed by an almost silent sigh that indicates, not again. And Meri, well, she's attempting to wrestle with feelings she believed she'd buried years ago. Do we even know where we stand anymore? Christine breathes, her voice a mere whisper, but full of feeling. Each viewer in the audience can't help but wonder, how would they feel if their existence was instantly rewritten by the arrival of another person? The tension hangs so thick, so heavy, you can sense it in every look, every hesitation, every unuttered word. As we enter this tale, get ready to untangle the complex knot of loyalty, jealousy, and secrets deep set. From hushed arguments in darkened corridors to wordless glares across dinner tables, nothing is ever what it appears to be. Each decision could create a ripple effect that alters the family forever. And if you're thinking this is just another family saga, wait until you witness the emotional tornado that's brewing. Now strap yourselves in, because in this tale, nobody is off the hook. And each discovery is more explosive than the previous. Stay with me till the end and tell me which wife you believe will cope with this discovery best. The moment everything changes starts with a single conversation. It was just an everyday evening at the Brown home. Or so it was. The sun was dipping behind their vast Arizona estate, sending long shadows onto the lawns, and within the house, the soft drone of everyday life covered up a tension that everyone noticed. Kody was more reflective than usual that day, his thoughts whirling around one he'd hardly acknowledged to himself. Christine was in the kitchen, her hands moving to stir a pot, but her gaze wandered back to Kody repeatedly. She could feel the heaviness in his attitude, the hesitation before every word he uttered, the measured way he approached things before he did them. Something is coming, she thought, a dread gnawing at her chest. Janelle was close by, thumbing through a magazine she didn't particularly care for, but her reflexes were acute. She sensed Kody's subtle changes, the furrowing of his brow, the soft wisps of air escaping his lips. Robyn reclined on the couch, making a show of swiping through her phone, though she was no more at ease. And Meri, she sat quietly in the corner, sipping slowly at her tea, not wanting to think about what was about to unfold. Kody finally spoke, shattering the silence with a quiet that did not match the tempest raging beneath. "I had a talk today," he said, and hesitated, as if the words themselves had weight enough to suffocate him. "A woman? She wishes to marry into our family." The room fell silent. Every thought, every memory, every hidden insecurity rose to the surface in that moment. Christine's hands trembled slightly, Janelle's jaw tightened, Robyn's eyes widened, and Meri felt her chest tighten with a mix of dread and curiosity. No one said anything for a long time, all of them considering the ramifications in their own manner. And just when the silence was hanging there, unable to be endured, Kody said almost in a whisper, "She says she's serious and she wants an answer." It was a line that would alter all of their lives. Sometimes the toughest wars are waged quietly, within the heart. Christine moved back from the counter, staring at Kody, but really not seeing him. Her mind was racing with memories, vows, and the life she had constructed with him in painstaking detail. How could it happen again? She thought. She felt like a knife was cutting her inside. She recalled the early days of their marriage, the dreams that they shared, and the compromises she had made. Everything now seemed so fragile, as if it would collapse at any moment. Janelle, however, attempted to keep an outward calm, but within her, the storms raged. She had believed herself beyond these times of insecurity, but the hint of another woman joining their family awakened feelings she had buried deep within. Am I sufficient? That question, plain and frightening, ran through her mind. She felt a twinge of betrayal, although Kody had not moved yet. The mere thought was enough to bring a storm to life. Robyn perched on the couch's edge, her body stiff, a neutral mask on her face. But the mask was beginning to crack. She couldn't help but wonder if her role in the family would be watered down, if her voice counted at all. She had always been the peacekeeper, the anchor, the one who smoothed jagged edges. And yet here she was, feeling lost, unsure of where she fit in the changing currents of the family. Meri's hands gripped her teacup tightly, knuckles white. Her heart raced, not entirely from jealousy, but from fear. Fear of what this new revelation could mean for the delicate balance of the household, for the life she had painstakingly reconstructed. Her mind flashed back to old disappointments and whispered betrayals, and she knew instinctively that this would not be easy to navigate. Kody observed them all, the crushing weight of his choice settling over him like a storm cloud. He desired to be truthful, but truthfulness was a double-edged sword. Every look, every guarded phrase could spark flames he might not be able to keep under control. "I need to think," he finally grumbled, distancing himself in the silence of his office. But even alone, the question tortured him. Can the family make it through this? Some secrets are too heavy to carry alone. That evening, the home was more subdued than normal, but the silence was heavy, nearly stifling. Each wife secluded herself in her own world, but none could shake the churning thoughts of Kody's confession. Christine was lying in bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, reliving every moment she shared with him in the last few weeks. Did I miss some sign? She clutched her chest with a combination of anger and fear. Everything he had said that afternoon rang out louder than any other conversation. She wants to join our family. Down the hallway, Janelle sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, hugging a pillow as if it would protect her from the tempest. She replayed memories of laughter and arguments, and quiet moments of intimacy, with Kody trying to make sense of them with the idea of another woman inserting herself into that world. Could I ever accept her? She wondered this over and over again. She saw with a pang that she was losing control of her emotions. Robyn drifted into the living room, the gentle whir of the ceiling fan not soothing her nerves. She picked up a photo of her family, outlining the children's and her own faces with her finger. This family, can it accommodate another person without shattering? She silently asked herself. The prospect of upsetting the fragile equilibrium she'd worked so hard to achieve sent her stomach knotting up. Meri, on the other hand, was in the kitchen gazing out into the darkened sink, holding the side as if it could ground her. Memories of previous heartache flooded in, the trust she had extended, and the broken trust. Why does this always seem like the leading edge of a storm? She murmured to herself, voice barely audible. Kody, alone in his office, sat with head in hands. He considered the woman, her sincere words, her insistence that this was what she really wanted. But he also considered the wives, whose hearts and minds were interwoven with his own, and the fine web of promise and fidelity he had spun over many years. How do you explain to the people you love most that someone else wants to come and share your life? The evening wore on in quiet thought. But out in the yard, the Arizona wind rustled through the trees, whispering a warning. It seemed, nothing will ever be the same again. When the heart is torn, even the smallest word can ignite a storm. The following morning was bright and unyielding, sunlight pouring into the Brown home as if revealing every concealed nook. Christine went through her day with robotic efficiency, yet her thoughts were elsewhere. Each look at Kody was like an interrogation. Each sentence he uttered weighed down with criticism. Does he not see what this could do to us? She seethed internally, her chest constricting with rage unsaid. Janelle was already outside, watering the garden, but the act was almost a distraction. She breathed in deeply, trying to steady her racing thoughts. How long can a family survive this much uncertainty? She recalled conversations she had had with Kody over the years, promises that now felt fragile and meaningless. Her hands shook slightly as she placed another pot on the ground. In the sitting room, Robyn sat at the dining table, gazing at the cup of coffee she had not touched. She needed to be calm, to keep the peace intact, but all her instincts were fighting against it. Can I keep my neutrality, or am I already on the precipice of losing my position here? Her gaze strayed to the stairs, visualizing the other wives' expressions, their covert plots, their silent struggles playing out in every room of the house. Meri stood by the window, following raindrops that didn't exist, her mind 1,000 miles away. The prospect of another woman entering their lives brought out a deep-seated, almost primitive fear. Not of loss, but of irrelevance, of being left behind in a family to which she had given so much of herself. How do you guard your heart when it feels as though the ground is moving beneath your feet? Kody summoned the wives to the living room, his voice firm but with an undercurrent of tension. We need to talk, he announced, and the gravity of those 3 plain words weighed on all of them. The room was heavy with expectation, suspicion, and unvoiced questions. As they gathered, The woman's name was uttered aloud for the first time, and with that single syllable, the room froze. Every heartbeat seemed to echo in unison. Who is she? What does she want? And how far will this family bend before it breaks? Some questions have answers we're not ready to hear. The room was quiet, the sort of quiet that pushes against your chest and makes each second last an eternity. Kody cleared his throat, the noise abnormally harsh in the quiet. Her name is Emily, he eventually stated, and with that, the air seemed to fracture. Christine's gut fell. Emily? Who was she? Why now? Her head was filled with memories, hypothetical battles, and all the ways her world could change in a heartbeat. She could already sense the flush rising in her chest, a blend of fear, anger, and shock. Every primitive urge screamed in her brain. Defend what's yours. Janelle narrowed her eyes. She wanted to keep her cool, be the voice of reason in the room. But her imagination conjured up violent images of Emily entering their house, their lives, and filling a spot that had been hard-won over generations. This is not some stranger. This is a threat, she thought, mentally tallying the ways she could protect herself emotionally. Robyn leaned back slightly, a practiced calm on her face, though her hands betrayed her nerves, twisting a napkin in small, almost imperceptible movements. Her thoughts churned, evaluating every possible outcome. If she comes in, will the balance we've fought so hard to maintain collapse? Meri's lips were clamped tightly shut. She had learned long ago that silence was both a shield and a weapon. Do I talk? Do I stay quiet? All the memories of heartbreak and disappointment came flooding back, threatening to overwhelm her. Her mind kept going back to one impossible question. Can a family ever survive another edition without shredding itself apart? Kody took a deep breath, trying to steady his own racing thoughts. I haven't made any decisions yet, he said, and in that single sentence the tension tightened like a noose. But how long before a decision is forced upon us? The room was thick with unsaid words, each eye flying to another, each mind racing scenarios, each breath ticking down to a sure confrontation. And in the silence of that moment, there was one thought ringing through every mind. Once she gets here, things will never be the same. Arrivals can change everything, even before a word is said. The next morning, there was a change that had crept into the Brown home. The air weighed more heavily, as if it held some unspoken threat. Kody had exchanged words with Emily the previous night, and while the words had been courteous, there had been a tension that hung in the air like a shadow. Christine made her way through the house with careful deliberation, each look and step calculated. She continued to replay Kody's words, analyzing tone, intention, and underlying meaning. Is he thinking about it seriously? Or is he simply trying our response? Each possible outcome flew through her head, each one more disturbing than the last. Her heart constricted, and she saw just how much this was undermining her own security. Janelle steered clear of the public living spaces, ducking into her favorite secluded spots. She couldn't shake the thought of Emily. What does she do that we don't? The idea nagged at her, and for the first time in years, she felt a pang of insecurity that wasn't solely about Kody, about the tenuous balance she'd worked so hard to achieve. Robyn stayed occupied in the kitchen, neatly sorting groceries with precision, even though her thoughts ran on inexhaustibly. If Emily enters our life completely, can the family endure it? Will the kids grasp it? Even as she sorted the mundane stuff, her heart pounded helplessly with apprehension and fear. Meri, walking along beside the window, eventually gave herself over to bitter thought. She recalled her own childhood battles for attention and acceptance, times when she had felt ignored or devalued. How do I guard against being consumed by this new dynamic? Eventually, Emily arrived. She was courteous, poised, smiling softly, but there was a flicker in her eyes, a quiet confidence that instantly attracted notice. Christine's jaw clenched, Janelle's fingers fluttered. Robyn stiffened. Meri breathed slowly, not knowing if it was relief or tension. Emily's gentle voice pierced the room like a ripple on quiet water. Thank you for having me today, she said. And in that moment, all thought, all anxiety, all unspoken fear within the room appeared to coalesce. No one spoke, and yet there hung in the air the question, was this gracious greeting merely the calm before the storm? Trust takes a long time to form, but suspicion takes just a second. The afternoon dragged on, and the Brown house was a lesson in tacit tension. Emily circulated among them with elegant courtesy, her smile fixed, but each look seemed studied, as if she could feel the intangible threads of power, loyalty, and fear that cut through the family. Christine couldn't help but see the way Emily spoke with Kody, gentle laughter, barely perceptible nods, motions that appeared innocent and had about them an almost unnoticeable intimacy. Is she being charming, or is she probing us? Christine's heart pounded in a rush of anger and fear. Each smile from Emily was like a provocation, a stealthy invasion of ground she had defended for years. Janelle sat close by, feigning the organization of a bookshelf, but her gaze was fastened on each gesture. She's too calm, too confident, too self-assured. A shiver of discomfort ran along her back. Janelle didn't know whether Emily's calmness was a weapon or a protection. Either way, it destabilized the balance she had struggled to maintain. Robyn kept her neutral posture, but her thoughts whirled with plans: how to defend her position, how to read Emily's motives, how to forestall chaos before chaos had a chance to start. She had always been the peacemaker, but now the equilibrium she depended on was slipping through her fingers like sand. Meri, pacing quietly near the window, wrestled with feelings she hadn't anticipated: fear, envy, curiosity, and a strange sense of connection she could neither define nor deny. Why does she make me feel both threatened and intrigued at the same time? The thought unsettled her more than she cared to admit. Kody sat in silence, sensing the tension but afraid to step in. He desired harmony, but the subtle power struggles creeping into being before him were too complicated for him to control. Each look exchanged between Emily and the wives bore a gravity he hadn't expected, and he sensed his first nudges of disagreement he knew would burst forth in short order. As night's shadows deepened, a hasty remark by Emily shattered the tenuous peace. "I hope to gain your trust someday." The room fell silent, and in that quiet, all the unasked questions weighed more heavily than before. Can one earn trust, or is it too late? Some battles cannot be avoided, no matter how delicately you dance around them. The following morning, the house was charged, nearly electric. Christine made her coffee in silence, each sip bitter as she repeated Emily's words from the previous day. Earn our trust, eventually. The phrase lingered in her mind, each time repeated as fire that had not known it had smoldered within her grew larger. Janelle was up in the bedroom, making Kody's former shared spaceship again. Each motion was deliberate, controlled, but within, she wasn't at all composed. "She's here to stir up trouble, I just know it." The reflection tormented her, a muffled anxiety she attempted to hide behind rehearsed poise. Robyn stayed in the living room, reading a magazine with apparent interest, but not actually looking at it since she was entirely focused on Emily. Each smile, every laugh, each minute movement was recorded and dissected. What does she actually want? Her thoughts flashed through all possibilities, all of her plans, and all of her backup plans that she had ever done for the stability of the family. Meri, walking by the window, could feel her heart beating in her chest. The emotional stakes had risen overnight, and she knew that beneath the gracious introductions, the smiles, and the gentle words, a silent war had already begun. How do you navigate a storm before it even begins? Kody then gathered everyone in the living room at last. The atmosphere was strained, voices hushed, hearts racing. Emily sat poised, hands clasped in her lap, exuding peace in a way that almost provoked the wives to bristle. Kody cleared his throat. "I want us to be honest with each other," he started, and the words lingered in the air like a gauntlet. Christine was the first to speak, her voice shaking a little but tinged with steel. "Honest? You brought someone into this family without even telling us. How is that fair?" Janelle leaned forward, her jaw clenched. "We need to know what she wants from us, and from this family. This can't just happen." Robyn's eyes flitted between them, weighing, measuring, attempting to hold onto a strand of control. Meri remained quiet, but every cell in her body was tense, waiting for the next step. It took Emily a moment to break the silence, speaking quietly but firmly. "I don't want to replace anyone. I just want to belong." The room fell quiet once more. Only this time, it wasn't quiet. It was an anticipation of the explosion that everyone knew was impending, and the question remained, who would crack first? Sometimes the truth hurts more than lies ever could. By the late afternoon, the tension had coalesced into something nearly palpable. The wives hung in isolated corners of the house, their thoughts churning like storm clouds, each attempting to interpret what Emily's arrival really meant. Christine's brain replayed the morning conversation repeatedly, each word seared into her memory. "She says she doesn't want to replace us. But can anyone ever just be added to this family without upset?" Janelle paced slowly, arms crossed, thinking about years of loyalty, compromise, and unspoken agreements that had kept this family together. "This isn't just about Emily. This is about trust, about control, about everything we've worked to maintain. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the calm mask she tried so hard to wear. Robyn's mind was quick, watchful, noting every look and movement. She's perceptive, too perceptive, she's probing us. Her protective nature to defend her position in the family conflicted with her desire to live in harmony, making her restless and taut. Meri stayed quietly in the corner of the room, her mind growing dark. Old scars were pricked open, thoughts of being pushed to the sidelines or forgotten flooded to the surface. I won't let her in. I won't let her in, if it ruins everything I've worked for here. The flames of determination smoldered within her, laced with a thread of fear. That night, Kody attempted to facilitate a relaxed dinner, in an effort to close the growing gap, but there was a tension that could not be ignored. Each attempt at dialogue sounded strained, each joke flopped, and every look in Emily's direction appeared to carry some accusation. At last, Christine couldn't keep it inside anymore. "Kody," she snapped, her voice firm, "we need boundaries. We can't just let this occur without rules, without clarity, otherwise everything disintegrates." Emily's serene smile did not waver. "I get it, I really do, but I want you to look at me for who I am, not for what I symbolize." The room came to a stop once more, and for an instant it was impossible to determine if this tenuous peace would hold, or if the initial spark of true warfare had already flared. Sometimes the walls we construct are designed to safeguard us, but can also ensnare us. The morning after, the house seemed compact, weighty, each corridor resonating with unease. Christine sat at the kitchen table, gazing at her coffee cup, its warmth evaporated long ago. Each gulp tasted like a reminder of how fragile their universe had turned out. "She's mannered, too mannered, but I sense it, something beneath the surface." Janelle drifted into the living room, making an appearance to readjust a pillow, but her thoughts were razor-sharp, assessing, steeling herself for what was coming. "She's pushing limits, checking vulnerabilities. We must react cautiously." Every action Emily took seemed deliberate, calculated, and it unsettled her more than she was willing to acknowledge. Robyn lingered by the door, quiet witness, scanning body language, tone and energy. Who will be the first to lose his balance if this goes on? Her protective instincts responded, but she recognized control slipping like sand between fingers. Meri, striding back and forth by the window, could feel her heart thudding as the tempest within the house intensified. "I won't let her get the best of me. Not now, not ever." She tightened her fists, every nerve on high alert, waiting for a blunder, a word, a move that might signal defeat or triumph. Dinner was a battlefield disguised as family dinner. Verbal shots were exchanged sparingly, but the tension became more lethal with each look. Christine finally broke through the silence, her tone cutting through. "Emily, you have to get it into your head that this isn't about you or me, it's about all of us. This family has traditions, and you can't just turn a blind eye to them." Emily held her eye levelly, quietly, almost to the point of being unnerving. "I don't want to overlook anything. I just want to belong without stealing what's yours." The room became still as everyone awaited Kody's attempt at brokered understanding to break. It sank under the crushing weight of emotion. Janelle's eyes sparked. Robyn clenched her jaw, and Meri's silence was more vocal than words. And then, just when the suspense was at its highest point, Emily spoke softly, as if matter of fact. "There's something I haven't told you yet." The sentences hung suspended there, like a knife poised above them all. What can she possibly be hiding that even the wives don't know? Some truths are more dangerous than lies. The room went still, every eye locked on Emily, who seemed unnervingly calm despite the weight of her words. Christine's hands tightened around her fork, her mind racing. What could she possibly have to hide? Janelle's chest tightened, every instinct screaming that the calm facade might be hiding something that could shatter everything. "I've prepared for many scenarios, but this?" Robyn leaned forward a little, her eyes narrowing. "She's hiding something that might shift the dynamics of this family forever." Meri, who had been sitting in silence, could feel her pulse racing. "If she tells them, we can't turn it back. Everything will come apart in seconds." Emily's voice cut through the silence, gentle but intentional. "Before anyone makes any decisions regarding me becoming a part of this family, you should know, I already have a child." Time stood still. Christine's jaw dropped. Janelle's fingers wrapped around the table's edge. Robyn's eyes grew wide, and Meri could feel a chill creeping down her arm. A child. Someone completely beyond their well-built reality, now forever connected to it. Kody's face blanched, his head spinning through possibilities, obligations, and what the wives would do. "You didn't tell me about this?" he stuttered. Emily gently shook her head. "I wished to be truthful from the beginning, but I also wished to know if there was room for me here without throwing everything into chaos." Christine finally spoke, her voice shaking but determined. "Do you see what this is? This alters everything. Our family, our trust, our lives." Janelle sat back, her head reeling. "How do we even start to deal with this? We can't just act like it's the same as it was." Robyn remained composed on the outside, but inside, she was a whirlpool of emotions. "This is larger than I thought. Are we going to make it through?" Meri's whisper almost no one heard. "We're at the precipice of something we might never come back from." And in that instant, each and every heartbeat in the room bore the same question: how will the family endure this discovery, or will it finally shatter them? Sometimes the most difficult decisions define what we are. The house weighed more than ever. The news of Emily's child hung over them like a shadow, casting itself across each room, each look, each pulse. Christine walked the living room in furious strides, fists balled, mind reeling. "This isn't about a new wife. This is about our whole world rocked from beneath us." Janelle sat on the couch, hands over head, running back through all previous conversations with Kody, all compromises she had made, all the silent fears she had had. How do we go on when the rules we've been operating by no longer work? Robyn, always the planner, watched in silence, marking the subtle cues of the other wives. "We have to have a plan, a means of protection that maintains the family." Her thoughts schemed through options, balancing results, looking for a scale that felt ridiculously out of grasp. Meri lingered close to the window, observing the sun setting behind the desert dunes, with a combination of fear, anger, and curiosity. This is a turning point. All that comes before this is lost. All that comes after is unknown. Kody finally rose to his feet, taking a deep breath. His voice was both resolute and uncertain. "We've come through hard times before, and we've made it through. But this is not the same. We need to choose not only what we desire, but what we're willing to accept for ourselves, for our children, for this family." Emily spoke gently, near pleading. "I don't want to take anyone's place. I just want to be part of something greater than myself, to belong." Christine's tears welled up, frustration and compassion. Janelle nodded, still rigid but hearing. Robyn relaxed a little, tightness in her chest easing. Meri softened her look, though caution remained. For the first time, the room sensed the promise of balance, but none could avoid the tenuous line they now tread. Every choice, every response, threatened to propel them into unity or disintegration. And as the sun sank out of sight, leaving the house in deep shadow, one thought was still left lingering in all their minds. The family will never be the same. But perhaps, just perhaps, they can make it through it together.